Hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining us here on this Wednesday. We're going to take a close look at the Denver snow chances, snow forecast for you. Snow chances out the window. We're going to get snow here in Denver. It is going to make the roads a real mess this afternoon. That is the top takeaway. I am screaming about this from every mountaintop I can, which is mainly Twitter, but in other ways, I'm trying to get that point across as well. We've kind of led with it on our main story on 9news.com, where we're talking about the fact that the roads this afternoon are going to be a mess. I'll explain why here in just a second. But we will get some meaningful snow from north to south. It'll move its way from Fort Collins down to Loveland and down to Boulder, Longmont, down to Denver between probably about 2 to about 5 o'clock, depending on a few factors. Let's start things out with what we're expecting overall for your day today, which is going to be a high temperature in the upper 30s. In fact, right now here in Denver, we're generally on the calmer side. You get up into the mountains, and that's where the snow is flying right now. But again, that forecast for your day today, those clouds do increase. I'm looking outside my window right now here. I'm working from home and got a mix of sun and clouds right now. Those clouds will win the battle as we head over the next couple of hours. A cold front slides through roughly around 2 or 3 o'clock in Denver. Earlier, further north, Fort Collins, you're going to get that front probably within the next hour or two, and that will drop temperatures pretty quickly. So again, temperatures right now, not all that bad, at least for this time of year. We're right around 40 degrees right now, and those temperatures may even rise a couple more degrees as we get over the next few hours. It's around 2 or 3 o'clock when that front swings its way through, and pretty much as soon as that front does pass on by, we get snow that develops, and the heaviest of that snowfall will most likely be at the front end of the storm. And the reason I kind of emphasize that is come 5, 6, 7 o'clock tonight, that snow is going to be coming down pretty hard here, folks. And so again, right now we're seeing a mix of sun and clouds come 5 or 6 o'clock, maybe even as early as 4 or 3, especially in the north side of the metro area. We're going to see that snow coming down pretty heavily. And the point I want to get across is it's going to make the roads a real mess out there. So I don't want to hear, I feel like sometimes after these events, anecdotally, I'll get these, even sometimes personal texts, but I'll sometimes get tweets or Facebook comments are saying, why don't you let us know the roads are going to be a real mess? I want to kind of emphasize, avoid the roads between about 4 and 7 tonight, and you'll probably thank me later. Maybe you will. Don't worry, you don't have to thank me. The point is just stay off the roads between about 4 and 7 o'clock tonight, because as soon as that snow comes, again, I haven't mentioned the totals yet for a specific reason. The totals are probably not that impressive with this snowfall event. The problem is the timing. It's always the timing here, folks. If this was on a Saturday night, we'd probably be, I wouldn't say barely talking about it, but I wouldn't be as worried. The concern to me is the fact that it's going to be snowing right during that 4, 5, 6 o'clock time window, right as people are trying to get home, or I don't know, whatever it is you might be doing. That's obviously a peak commute time. So again, 6 o'clock, that snow is going to be coming down pretty heavily. We're going to have narrow bands of very heavy snowfall. And we may see, I was actually texting my colleague, my colleague, meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen, about this just a second ago. In fact, he just texted me just now a second ago about this as well. We could be seeing snow squalls, and that's these very narrow bands of very heavy snowfall, strong winds, and that reduces visibility to maybe a quarter or half a mile, makes it a real mess out there on the roadways. And the point with that is we could be seeing that right during the evening rush. So again, I want to emphasize the fact that 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock, have I mentioned it yet? That it's going to be pretty nasty out there. All right, now that I've drilled that home, we can skip ahead to maybe some of those accumulations and what we will be talking about in terms of those snowfall totals. And come, again, around midnight or so is when this event wraps up for most of us. The mountains, by the way, you're seeing your snow right now. I know it's snowing pretty heavily up by the Eisenhower Tunnel. Just heard a report from Breckenridge. It's snowing heavily up there right now as well. Berthoud Pass, Highway 40, very, very slippery, very messy all day today. And we've got some gusty winds accompanying some of that snow up in the mountains as well. Denver, and for us here in the immediate metro area, we're likely looking at a total of about 2 to 4 inches for most. The reason we're showing you 5.5 inches there, this is going to be one of those rare storms where our official observation site at DIA, the official, when we say Denver's had X amount of snow or Denver officially saw X amount of snow in a snowstorm, that observation takes place at Denver International Airport. Now, it's a bit of a sore spot for a lot of us meteorologists. here in the metro area, because sometimes downtown sees very different weather from what we see at the airport. Trust me, it's a real headache. But the point with that, I suppose, is that DIA could well end up with 5, 6, 7 inches of snow, while downtown gets closer to maybe 3, 4 inches out of this by the time all is said and done. And again, this system should wrap up pretty quickly, and the majority of the snow comes in the first probably 2, 3 hours of the event. So that's another point. And by the way, we're also going to see, you might notice that little teal shading just to the north of Denver. There's going to be the meteorological setup of this is we're going to see some very narrow bands of heavy accumulation. So point being, don't be shocked if somebody, say, in North Glen, Boulder, Longmont ends up with maybe 7, 8, 9 inches from this event, because we're going to see some very narrow bands of heavy accumulation embedded within this. So it's a tricky forecast. I'm just going to say here, folks, I've been texting with a few of my colleagues here at 9 News Weather, meteorologist Danielle Grant as well, about this event, and it is a tricky forecast because the jet stream is involved, which tends to create these very narrow bands of heavy accumulation. And so, again, maybe places like Thornton could get 7 inches while Centennial gets 2 or 3. That kind of event. There's going to be very, very sharp gradients in terms of those snowfall totals across the metro area. And again, DIA could well end up with 5, 6, 7 inches of snow from this, while downtown gets 3 or 4. Again, Lone Tree maybe sees only 2, something like that, where you're seeing very sharp gradients across the metro area. But again, I waited a little time intentionally to get to that point because I wanted to hammer home the fact that, repeat after me, the evening commute is going to stink. It is not going to be very, very pleasant out there on the roadways. All right, now that I've drilled all that home and that snowfall amount for you, tomorrow, the kind of other big, maybe underlying takeaway from this is behind the system, it's going to be pretty cold for your day tomorrow. And highs will probably not get out of the 20s for us here in Denver. You get up into the foothills. Here is just west of town. Maybe we don't get out of the low to mid 20s. May see a few flakes around during the pre-dawn hours, maybe around 7 a.m. I think the majority of this is done by midnight. The accumulating snow should be done by midnight tonight for most of the metro area. Wouldn't be shocked if we got a few flakes as you wake on up 5, 6, 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. It's kind of cloudy and you got a little bit of snowfall still flying across the skies. But for all intents and purposes, the snow should be done by about midnight, 1 a.m. Tonight here in Denver. And then tomorrow morning, those roads will be very slippery, but notice the temperature of 4 degrees. It'll be a bit windy as well, so expect sub-zero wind chills. It's going to be very, very, very cold for us tomorrow morning, about as cold as we've been all season, going back to last Saturday, New Year's Day, when we woke up to a low of -8 here, and -9 here in Denver. Won't be quite probably that cold, but it's going to be pretty darn chilly for us as we get going tomorrow morning, and it doesn't warm up all that much either. So it's going to be cold, but again, shouldn't be too snowy tomorrow morning. I would expect some delays because of all that snow that's going to fall tonight, and so I would expect a slow commute tomorrow morning as well. But again, my concern right now is the evening commute today here in Denver. All right, let's go ahead for the next few days and show you your next very slight chance for snowfall, which would be coming up on Saturday night. And the Sunday morning is our next real chance for snowfall. It doesn't look all that significant. It doesn't look nearly as much as what we're seeing today. It looks like the mountains get a decent amount of snow, most of it during the day on Saturday. So if you're skiing up there, I'm raising my hand because I'm going to be skiing on Saturday, and I'm pretty excited about it because it's going to be snowing basically all day up in the mountains. But careful with that travel. Heaviest of that snow probably comes during the afternoon in the mountains here in Denver. Chance for a few flakes later in the overnight time frame between Saturday night and Sunday morning. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't hold my breath on that. It doesn't look all that likely that we see much in the way of accumulation here in Denver. It's not going to be, if we do see a few flakes, that would be a few flakes and maybe a dusting at a few spots. It's not going to be a big event. Today's will be much more significant, and same with the New Year's Eve storm, which was fairly significant. That'll be more significant than what we get coming up this weekend. Once we get past this storm system, I don't see any real meaningful chances for accumulation really over the next week. We kind of build back into a calmer and warmer weather pattern with highs back into the 50s the majority of the time starting on Friday. So again, snow tonight. Again, emphasis on the evening commute. About 2 to 4 inches for most of us, with some 5 to 8 inch totals just north and east of town. And then as we get into Tomorrow it's going to be really, really cold with a messy morning commute. And then it warms up and it stays pretty tranquil through the beginning to middle part of next week. But again, all eyes on that snowfall this afternoon. Of course, we'll keep you posted with the very latest. Meteorologist Danielle Grant will have more details coming up at 9 News at noon. And also Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabin will have more details coming up at 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10 on the 9 News family of networks. But for now, I'm Meteorologist Chris Bianchi, and thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch.